Hi, Marshall. Hi.
Hello, Oleg. How are you? And where are you?
I've got a great chance to spend my time with family, right? But the situation is tough and getting tougher. So,
Where are you?
Moscow now. I
Where's
got
home?
up in Moscow,
Okay.
you know. But good thing I wasn't in UK, so I'm with my family. Otherwise, I would be stuck, separated. Thank you.
Terry. Terry, where are you?
Sorry?
Let's say Terry. Terry, where are you?
I'm up in the mountains of North Carolina, in Asheville, North Carolina. Marshall, where are you at? Out in La Jolla?
I'm in La Jolla, California. Asheville's a beautiful town.
Oh, I love it up here. I love my Biltmore, if you've been here.
Yes, very nice. Mustafa, where are you?
I'm from Ankara, Turkey. I'm program director at aerospace and defense industry, and here I am.
So I noticed the numbers in Turkey are starting to go up pretty dramatically.
Yeah, there's a challenging times now. As you mentioned, the numbers are growing. I hope we can stop that because we are also in quarantine for the last 3 weeks. Schools are closed, so I hope we can just handle that.
Yes. Good luck to you. Yes, very nice. Very nice. Let's see. Fleming, where are you?
Well, I'm situated in Denmark. Actually, I'm in an island in the Baltic Sea where I live. Yeah, things are also accelerating here. We've been in quarantine for 3 weeks now. Okay. So they say they might open up after Easter. And so there's a discussion on that here, whether that's clever or not. Yeah.
Good. Well, Antonio, I will pass it back to you. It looks like we have a very interesting group of people from all around the world.
Maybe we can do a couple of more introduction, Marshall. People are trying to log in, so I like this way of getting to know the people, Marshall. Choose two or three more.
You be in charge from here. Why don't you call on people, Antonio, because you can see.
Okay, I go for Golchke.
Hi.
Can you introduce yourself to Marshall and to the team?
Sure, thank you. This is Gökçe Philips, also joining in from Turkey. I'm the co-founder of an IT company here called Progesium. We're working on blockchain and fintech products, but currently looking into finding solutions to some of the COVID-related areas, as you know, Antonio. And as you mentioned, well, I know Mustafa from the PMI group here. As you mentioned, the current situation in Turkey is not going really well. We've got about 15,500 cases and growing really fast. This is one of the races that we don't want to win.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's go for Rosina. Small introduction.
Hi everybody, I'm Rosina Spinois, based here in Brussels. I'm a social entrepreneur and design strategist, and yeah, the situation here, we've had 3 weeks of the lockdown now, and yeah, cases are still rising, going up in the curve. We've yeah, seeing how it's going, and we're just hoping that we reach that peak soon. So they were predicting the beginning of April, so we're already April Fool's Day, so let's see. Yeah. So, and happy to be here and see you all. So yeah, looking forward to the call and looking forward to hearing from you, Marshall, for sure.
I know that Belgium has one of the highest per capita rates of infection in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what's quite worrying, of course, because we're quite a small country, but yes, indeed, it's per capita, it's very high. And so, yeah, I still think there's a bit of a challenge with the social distancing and people staying at home. We're still seeing, you know, I think there's still quite a lot of movement here. So the police are out in the municipalities, so let's see if that makes it a bit stricter.
Yeah. You know, people also don't realize this, but Switzerland has one of the highest per capita infection rates in the world, which is they're roughly equal to Spain or Italy. It's very close. So Switzerland, very, very high, which it's a small country. So if you look at the absolute numbers, you don't realize that. But if you look at the per capita numbers, they're very, very high.
Also, we don't hear that in the news that much either, actually, about Switzerland. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, last introduction, Jennifer.
Hello, Antonio and crew. Marshall, it's great to see you too. Yeah, I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I know you have many cohorts there. And I'm spending some time in North Alabama with family right now, just because we're all in lockdown as well, like you are, just making sure my family has what they need. But I'm likewise, like Antonio and probably a few others, serving the project management community globally. I'm doing a lot with, my corporate clients are in different industries, but my main company, Mobile Learning, is helping project managers stay certified. So right now, while everyone's in lockdown, there are a lot of people taking advantage of the time for learning and getting online virtually to just share what's happening in their region and their projects.
Okay, thank you. And I see Deepa.
Hi, Antonio. Am I unmuted? Yeah, so I have a similar background to Rosina. I also do a lot of work in design and strategy, and also in emerging markets. So I've been spending my time kind of giving people the easy way to find open source designs for things in short supply, and excited to see how fast people are actually able to respond. Whether it's fast enough, I don't know, but a lot of support, a lot of people trying to do good. So looking forward to getting more concrete project management tips so that we can accelerate that process.
Okay, good to see you, Deepa. So let's get started. We have 41 participants from all over the world. And it's a pleasure to have Marshall Goldsmith for part of our meeting. When I told Marshall, do you mind coming to talk to us for 20 minutes, share your views? You've advised some of the greatest leaders in the past decades. What would be your advice? He said, yes, immediately. Marshall is one of the most generous persons I've ever met in my life. And here he is with us. So Marshall, thank you so much for being here with us a few minutes and sharing a bit what you're seeing. How can we take this? How can we coach others? If there's anything we can do. The purpose of this group is to help others. This is something on voluntary basis and trying to just teach and help people as much as we can. We're the lucky ones, and so we want to spread that. So Marshall, thank you very much. If anybody has a question for Marshall, just type it on the chat so that we can follow that instead of just talking to each other. Thank you, Marshall. So if you can just tell us your views, and thank you very much. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you so much. I will briefly share a couple of thoughts, and I'm very open to any questions or concerns you may want to express. I'll introduce myself for those of you I have not met. My name is Marshall. I'm from Kentucky, went to school in Indiana, undergraduate degree in mathematics and economics, MBA at Indiana, PhD at UCLA, Anderson School. I was college professor and dean, and then pretty much I do teaching. I travel around the world speaking and teaching. I coach executives. I've been the coach of many famous people. And then I write books and articles. And then I'm adopting people. So I have this wonderful program called the 100 Coaches, and Antonia is an honorary son, and Rita is on this call, an honorary daughter, and Deepa is an honorary daughter. So at least 3 of my, and Oleg, I think, is now an honorary son. So I have 4 of my, maybe more, the ones I can see, at least 4 of my honorary children online. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful project. We have a lot of the great thinkers in the world. I did mention one of our adopted children did get the coronavirus yesterday, Chris Cuomo. And Tasha Urich, great thinker, has also, she's getting better. She's pretty much coming out the other side. So this is starting to hit a little close to home. I'm not an expert on macro level things. So anything I say on the macro level would be me talking based on conversations I've had with other people, not my own area of expertise. My area of expertise is much more micro level human behavior. And some of the things that, just dealing with this as a human, I might talk about a couple of 3 points. So Antonio, my idea was I'm going to spend just a few minutes on what I've learned from some of the great people I've talked to, which, by the way, is not going to be the happiest conversation in the world. One person in one of the groups that I was in said, if there are any children in the room, you might want to ask them to leave right now. And that kind of has metaphorical significance beyond the actual significance of children. If it's something you don't want to hear, you should leave, because this part of this is not all pleasant and happy. And again, I'm assuming everything we say in a conversation, please do not repeat, do not quote anyone. Quoting I know is Dr. Jim Kim. I've spent 3 or 4 conversations with him since the crisis. He led the anti-Ebola campaign in America. There is a way to solve the problem. And pretty clear. You try to test as many people as you can. You identify people that have it. You test them. If they test positive, you put them in lockdown, not voluntary lockdown or kind of lockdown. You put them in very clear, enforced lockdown. You track down who their contacts are and you put them in lockdown. And you do this over and over and over again. And then eventually, after X amount of time, the problem pretty much clears up. Antonio, as we've discussed in Spain and the United States and most countries, we haven't had adequate testing and time ticks. And every day that passes in this crisis is a huge amount of time. A day is a long, long time. People that don't have the virus can transmit the virus, or people that don't show signs of the virus can transmit the virus. So what happens is time passes. He's working right now in Massachusetts to try to get the entire state to go on a program where they do this with the state. In the states, we are cranking out thousands and thousands of tests right now. Yet in Spain, Antonio, the last time I think I've checked, the number of people who've actually been tested in Spain is close to nothing compared to the population. And so basically you get to a point where Bill Gates has said if 1% or more of the population have this, it's almost over. The odds on fixing it are not really high. So that is one issue that we're going to have to face. And again, I don't know what's going to happen, by the way. One alternative is we just have a massive lockdowns, etc. Another one of my good friends is reporting to the Secretary of Treasury of the United States of America. Message from him is this is an economic disaster beyond comprehension. Pretty much everything you've been told, it's worse. The idea of this is going to be a mild recession is a joke. That basically we cannot go through an economic lockdown of the United States and the rest of the developed world for 3 months. If we do that, the unemployment rate is going to be unimaginable. During the Depression, the unemployment rate was 24%. The estimates you've seen, if we try this, are 50%. Again, 50% unemployment is almost unimaginable. Okay, so that was a conversation I had with him, and I had a conversation with also another person who's vice chairman of one of the Federal Reserve Boards and meets with the Federal Reserve Board of the United States of America. Her opinion was that as human beings are largely clueless. They throw out numbers like 40, 50% unemployment without any idea of what this means to human beings. These are not people who've ever been in a bread line. They've never experienced poverty before or hunger. So this is really tough. Also, Antonio been on call people from India. India has been in lockdown now for 2 or 3 days. These people have no money. They can't live beyond 1 day on the income that they have. And so the idea that we're going to have 2 weeks of lockdown in India is not going to happen. People would starve to death. So basically, we're talking about some pretty tough situations here. Another possible scenario is this. Basically, the huge amount of casualties are old people. I don't know what the exact number is, but I believe in Italy, the number is 81%. 81 years old is the median age of someone who's died. It's very old. Now, there are cases where young people die, babies die, and they're all blasted over the newspaper. Most of these, they do have other complications beside their, that complicate things. But even at that, some people are going to die of all age groups. Ultimately, there's going to have to be very hard existential decisions that are going to have to be made. And there's always this argument of the economy versus human life. Well, massive global depression is something that's not a joke. And the odds on shutting down the world for 3 months and see what happens, if you're in a country like India, you're talking starvation is what happens, or many parts of the world. And also, if you shut down the United States, we're the consumers. Europe is the consumers. You're shutting down consumption. So this is very, very, very tough, very tough. The other alternative is just say, okay, screw it. Let's just let it go. In some parts of the world, that's happening. Another person calls from Georgia. You sit in Georgia, their attitude is screw it. You die, you die. We're not going to close down the country. That's it. Another alternative, which I think is, I'm going to give you my prediction just based on the people I've talked to. Another alternative is most of the casualties in this are older people. And I am older, so I'm 71, so I'm talking about myself. Basically, if we take out all the older people, 65 plus say, you take out all the people with pre-existing conditions, lock them up, and use a nice word for it, but lock down or lock up or something. Basically, you go back to the work. This is not much worse than the regular flu. You're going to have a lot of casualties. You're going to have some casualties of young people. And my guess is in the United States, that's exactly what's going to happen. Governor Cuomo is already talking about, he's the brother of the guy that's in our group. Chris Cuomo is his brother. So anyway, Andrew Cuomo is his brother, the governor of New York, who's a big deal right now. He's basically highlighted the fact that basically this is largely about old people and people with pre-existing conditions. Reading between the lines, they're going to try to protect the hospital system so there isn't a complete breakdown of the hospital system, at least in the United States or specifically in New York. Then assuming they can protect the hospital system so you can deal with enough casualties at a time, my guess is what's going to happen is they're going to have a staggered reintroduction to the workforce. The first people will be people who have immunity. Next group will be younger people, probably 30 and under, 40 and under. And then ultimately, everybody who's under, say, 60, 65 years old or doesn't have a pre-existing health problem. The problem politically with this is there is no answer to this. It is not a yes, but. You can say, yes, if you do that, that's wonderful, but some young people are going to die. That's true. Yes, if you do this, but there's going to be massive global depression. That's true. I'm certainly not an expert on President Trump, but what he's done is pretty clear. He's passing the buck on this in the United States to the governors of the states. They're going to have to make the call. Whatever call they make, they're going to make. And they're going to have to live with the call, and whatever call they get, the press will crucify them. And I think his attitude is, why crucify me? Let them crucify them. And so what's going to happen is a call is going to be made. And when that happens, it's going to happen. And the decision is going to be, A, B, or C. So as best you now know the actual situation as it is, as best I see it. Again, I'm a very positive, upbeat kind of a guy. There's a certain point, though, where happy talk is a little bit silly. And so this is not a happy talk conversation. So my apologies if you thought it was going to be. This is a time where this is not a happy talk time. My advice to all of you is take care of yourself, take care of your families. Do not worry about overcorrecting. One message I got from Jim Kim is do not worry about overcorrecting. Do not worry about looking silly. Do not worry about taking too much precaution. If you take too much precaution, people may laugh at you 6 months from today. Who cares? If you don't take enough precaution, you can endanger yourself or people that you love. So, you know, don't worry about taking too much precaution. In the United States, for example, we were told not to wear masks. Masks are bad, don't wear masks, they're completely useless. Why were we told this? Because we didn't have masks and they didn't want civilians to take up all the masks. Once we have massive production of masks, what's the message now? Masks are great, you should all wear masks. Well, I mean, it had nothing to do with masks being good or bad. It was they didn't want the population to take up all the masks from the healthcare system. And rather than just say that, what they said is basically, this is almost like one of those 1984 movies or you know, Brave New World or 1984, where we have this sort of double talk. And so, well, masks are, don't take, no, masks are good. Well, you know, when it's convenient for them to be bad, they're bad. When it's convenient for them to be good, they're good. That's kind of the way it is. And it's not that anybody's an evil or bad human being. They're all just trying to get by as best they can. So that's kind of my summary of the situation. Then I'm going to give you 3 points that I think are on the micro level that are a little more positive that you can do something about. The first one is mindfulness. It is very hard to maintain mindfulness in today's world. This is such a big topic. It tends to be so pervasive, it can control your life. It's hard to do anything but look at the internet and death counts and see this stuff and just read the latest story over and over and over again and have that become the focus of your life. One suggestion I would have is to really try to focus on what am I doing now? Limit the amount of time you're spending on this to a reasonable amount, a couple hours a day maybe, but not all day. Limit the amount of time and focus on what can I do to make a positive difference? What can I do to make a positive difference? Because it's very easy to get lost in things you cannot control. So really getting to focus on mindfulness of what can I control? Now, I'm a Buddhist, so I'm a great believer in mindfulness. And you know, Antonio, I really am good about mindfulness until one thing happens. You know what it is?
Tell me, Marshall.
I forget to be mindful. The only problem I have with mindfulness is forgetfulness. So I literally have to carry a card around to remind myself to be mindful every day. Yeah, as ridiculous as that sounds, it's kind of true. This is so pervasive. I have to remind myself to do things like drink water. I have to remind myself to do very basic things because if we're not careful, this is so pervasive. It just kind of blocks out everything. So keeping focus, keeping mindfulness is really a challenge. The second thing that you can do is what I call connectedness. And Antonio, I think this call is a great example of that. Do whatever we can to reach out to people. Help people as best you can. And I'll use a personal example. I've always been good with my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my immediate family, but not so good with my cousins, nephews, extended family. We got more time now. All those people in your life you kind of forgot. Your brother, your sister, your cousins, whatever, friends, people you went to school with when you were young. Well, this can be a time to call them up and say, hi, you know, I'd like to get to know you again. And I missed you and we haven't talked much, and just connecting with people. And when in my coaching, a lot of my coaching is about being connected to people and just teaching people to reach out and ask, how can I be better? How can I be better? And I think a great way that this group can help each other, and one thing I try to do in our group is there's something I teach called feed forward. That's, you ask for input, you listen to ideas, and you thank people. You don't judge, you don't critique, you don't put the ideal down. Buddha said, only do what I teach if it works for you. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't work for you, it's okay. Just say thank you. You don't have to do it, but don't put the other person down, insult them, prove they're wrong. Just say thank you. Well, I think that's a healthy way for people to deal with each other. Ask a question, how can I help? or ask, if they give you ideas and try to help you, just thank them and appreciate it, and not judge, not critique, not put people down. So I think that's a positive thing that all of us can do. And then, so I think, I think that's something else. So, and finally, I'd say for the people on this call, we have various age ranges, but I'll speak for the old people. And that is really go out of our way to recognize younger people. They're the ones taking the hit here. I'm not taking the hit. They're not going to die. I'm going to die. I'm not sacrificing my life for them. They're sacrificing their life for me. And I think a lot of older people have forgotten that. And we see a bunch of young people playing on the beach and going to parties and drinking, and we think, what a bunch of assholes. I think there's a tiny percentage of young people in the world. And I think most people who are younger in the world really do care about older people like me. They are trying to help. And just as an older person, I think we could typically do a better job of expressing gratitude and thanks to those people. And again, I guess the final comment I would make is on gratitude is just really go out of your way to thank the person in the restaurant who's still serving carry out, or the person at the grocery store, or the garbage man, or the doctor, or the nurse, or anybody out there who's at least trying to do something, because every day they're kind of taking a risk. So let me stop, Antonio. Those are my thoughts. If we have any time, I'm happy to stay as long as you want and at least do my best to deal with any questions. And again, if I don't know the answer, I just say I don't know.
Thank you, Marshall. Yes, there were a couple of questions. I think some of them there were more related to the virus. I'm not sure. One question from Anna. Could the virus be related to climate change? Have you heard anything from your contacts?
Not at all. Not an expert.
Not an expert. What's your view on herd immunity approach in Sweden?
I think the herd immunity approach is a very interesting idea. I think that basically what is going to happen is, rather than just saying everybody's going to get this, which means a lot of people are going to die, I think what's going to be more likely to have happen is a sort of a hybrid, which you can't shut down the world forever.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen is basically older people, me, are basically going to be asked to just lock down until there's a cure.
Mm.
And to me, I'm 71. I'm more than happy to do this. If I've got to stay locked up for a year, who cares? I'm happy to do it. That's the least I could do to make a contribution here. And by the way, you might say I should have a chance to live my own life and take my own chances. No. If I take up that ventilator in hospital bed, I'm killing someone else. So I don't think that's an ethical thing to do.
Mm. It's very courageous to say that, Marshall. And I love it's just the crude reality. It's the what you just mentioned. There's a few more questions. One from Marcello. How can we accept yet not lose the strength to maintain willpower and seek solutions relentless?
Well, it's very, very challenging. And the first thing is, I've got a couple of suggestions. One, don't get lost in what you can't change.
Mm.
I mean, we can spend all day talking about Donald Trump. That's hardly going to change the world. Or I'm sure, Antonio, you could talk about politicians in Spain.
No way.
Now, who cares? Why bother? Don't waste your life on what you're not going to change. Peter Drucker taught me a great lesson. He said, our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove we're smart, not to prove we're right. We get so lost in proving how smart we are and right we are, we forget we're not here on earth to prove how smart we are and right we are. We're going to make some kind of positive difference. Number two, he said, before you deal with any topic, ask yourself a question. Am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? Am I willing at this time to make the effort required to make a positive difference on this topic? The answer is yes, do it. The answer is no, let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. Don't waste your time, your life on what you can't change. Let it go. And by the way, we're all going to screw up in this crisis. We're all going to say stupid things. We're going to say things to our family we shouldn't have said. We're going to get angry. Forgive yourself for being a human being. Forgive the people around you for being human beings. Everybody is freaked out, upset, emotional, nervous, whatever, anxious. People say and do very unfortunate things when this happens. Let it go. Let it go. Just forgive people, forgive yourself. I mean, Chris Cuomo last night on his TV show, I sent him an email today. The one thing I said he had to do is forgive himself. Yeah, he may have infected his mother.
Yeah.
He may have infected his kids.
Mm.
You can't just beat yourself up for this.
No.
You can't do that. Life's too short. And at a certain level, you just have to make decisions and make peace.
Thank you, Marshall. There's one question from Assad. How can one motivate himself to stay calm and motivate others to stay calm?
Well, you know, if anybody call from India? Any Indians on the call? No. Well, anyway, if you're from India, I'm also a student of Hindu philosophy. And the Gita, I think, really is a good place to look for this. And it basically says, the Gita describes a situation where a person has two choices. One choice is bad and the other choice is worse.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And the person is going through this mental turmoil of what should I do and what should I do? And basically the message from Krishna is, it is what it is. You can't change what you can't change.
Yeah.
You can't get fixated on the end result. And you do your best. Am I doing the right thing? And I'm doing the best I can. That's all you can possibly do. And you make peace. I'm doing what I think is right. I'm sometimes going to make a mistake, but I think it's right. I'm trying. And I think I'm doing the right thing, and I think I'm doing my best. That's it. That's pretty much all you can do.
Mm.
Do the right thing and do your best. And an analogy is, think of golf. No matter what situation you're in on the golf course, if you think about the past, why did I hit the bad shot? Or if you think about the future, isn't it going to feel great to win this tournament? All you do is mess up your mind. The only thing you can do when you play golf is you look at the ball in front of you and you hit that shot. Well, it's kind of an analogy for where we are now.
Yeah, it's so good analogy. And what you're just saying, it's just going to bring us down to earth when we start talking about what we can do, where can we have some impact, and where we cannot. So I think that's brilliant. If you don't mind, Marshall, we have Rita, a good friend of us, and she's talking about her views on the climate change. Rita, do you mind sharing what you just typed there and tell us your view? You're unmuted. Rita.
Hi, how are you? And hello to all of you that I don't know yet. I mean, what I do think about the post.
I've got to introduce Rita.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Rita is one of the #1 strategy thinkers in the entire world. She's the top strategy thinker in the world. So she needs at least a tiny bit of introduction. So a little bit of applause for Rita.
Oh my gosh. I think Zoom is doing something to my brain. I forget, you all don't know each other and me and whatnot. Anyway, I'm a professor at Columbia Business School, and I work at the intersection of strategy and innovation. And my latest book is called Seeing Around Corners, How to Spot Inflection Points in Business Before They Happen. And we're obviously in the midst of a huge inflection point. And some of the things I think we can predict, or at least anticipate, is there's going to be a great unfreezing among assumptions on multiple levels. And once we get out the other end of this, I think what we're going to find is we're going to be questioning our assumptions about many things. And the one I put in the comments is, you know, the environmental movement has had a very difficult time getting people to agree to the kind of action that would actually benefit the environment in some substantive way, because it's painful, you know, because it would hurt economic interests, or it would mean a different standard of living or whatever. And I think one of the things we can anticipate coming out of this crisis is there's going to be a lot more ammunition for the environmentalists to be able to say, look, does it make any sense from the environmental perspective that all of humanity feels it can get on an airplane and fly 3,000 miles for no particular reason whatsoever. Does it really make sense that with this cessation of human activity, we've got cities that are breathable for the first time in decades? We've got dolphins cavorting in the canals of Venice. So, I think one of the things we should start to think about now is what are the assumptions in business that are going to be challenged. And because once you've practiced something or lived with something for, I think it's 30 days, and Marshall, you may know more about this than I do, it has the potential to become a habit. So once we've gotten into the habit of, gee, I don't have to get on a plane and go to the Thursday meeting, I can do it this way. Once we've built those skills and built those muscles, and don't forget, we're making investments right now. All of us are making investments in, how do we relate virtually? How do we, we're buying equipment. I know a lot of people that are setting themselves up so that they can be as present as possible through this electronic medium. Once we've made those investments, it's not going to be a case of once we're back to sort of whatever comes next, we're all going to say, oh, well, that was fun. We don't need that anymore. No, we'll have learned a whole new way of engaging. And I think that's not going to disappear. So, so I think the environment, I think certainly education is going to radically change. I think how we instrument organizations is going to radically change. So I call it the great unfreezing, and we'll see where it goes, but we can begin to anticipate some of those effects, I think.
Thank you, Rita. It's always a pleasure hearing you, and I wanted to ask you if you don't mind talking to us in one of our future sessions.
Oh, sure, I'd be delighted. Oh, I'd be absolutely delighted.
Because it's
I can run you through my Seeing Around Corners book. While I've got the floor, for those of you that are interested in this kind of topic, I do publish a monthly newsletter, and it's free, and you can just go on my website, which is ritamcgrath.com, and subscribe. And I'd love to get your feedback. What I do is I take a different sector each month and try to see what the inflection points might be that could touch the people working in that sector. So it's one way I try to keep sharp. So I don't do the same thing over and over again. So it's a different topic each month. And this particular month is obviously on the crisis. So I'd be delighted, Antonio. Just let me know when.
It's beautiful to hear you, Marshall. Marshall, can I just ask one more of our friends to talk? Ron Carucci, because he brings a different perspective as well. Thank you, Rita. Ron, are you there?
I am, Antonio. How are you all? Good to see you all. Can you hear me?
We hear you, Ron. Yes, can you small introduction, quick one?
Yeah, sure. My name is Ron Carucci. I work for a small boutique consulting firm called Navalent, and we do leadership and organizational work. So our work is leading large-scale transformations and large-scale projects for leaders who are facing some type of massive opportunity either within themselves or within their industries. And so we come alongside them and coach them and consult to them to get to the places they want to go.
Tell us about your point here, Ron.
So yeah, I put an article I wrote this week to help many of my executive clients are CEOs of big companies or leading large divisions of the world, and they're anxious because they're stuck between how much can I say, how do I not give false hope to people, but how do I still inspire them to be somewhat positive? And I recognize that they're burdening themselves as though it were their role to be the ones that has to inspire other people, to be the ones that give hope. And of course, we can't do that. We're all metabolizing this virus in very different ways. All the monsters we're creating in our head, and the isolation is certainly making them worse, are different for each of us. And so if you don't know what monster you're fighting, you're going to sort of maybe inadvertently be dismissive or discounting of somebody's fears or feelings. For many, it's their economy. For many, it's their health. It's a combination of all. So what I've been helping my clients do is help them realize they can create the conditions for which people can find their own hope. Once people can recognize they have storehouses of resilience, they have faced crises before, they have come through difficult situations. And this, sometimes our immediate circumstances tend to sort of create a sense of permanence, right? Our catastrophizing and our fears make us unable to see past it. And so what leaders can do is help folks discover for themselves, the future, you already knows what's going to happen. So what is the current you need to get there? What is the monster in your head? And I think sometimes just naming the monster as our worst nightmare. What I'm finding is a lot of my clients are processing this through past trauma. So if they've been laid off before, they're already imagining themselves as homeless. If they've been sick before, they're already imagining themselves as getting the virus and spreading it to a lot of people. So the current pain is being processed through past pains. And if you can help people disaggregate those, name the monsters, name the places they've been resilient before, they discover their own hope. They discover their own sources of resilience. And as a leader, just be a safe place and listen. Be a safe, empathic place to care for them as they discover it. Don't feel obligated to give them an answer or hope because you might make them more anxious. So the article I posted in the notes are sort of a description of how leaders can do that. And then use data and facts judiciously. Many leaders are trying to stick to the facts only, which can be dangerous because there's so many conflicting facts out there. And then, as has been spoken before, gratitude, helping people recognize that there are still sources of joy in their life. There are still things to be grateful for. There are still grounding evidence that we have reasons to be hopeful. And so anyway, I think leaders can do, and project managers, for those who are leading projects who are being sidelined or backburnered or delayed, our PMOs are, I've talked to several PMO leaders this week who are panicked over things were midair when they had to leave the labs. How do you help keep projects going virtually when you can't be processing data or processing vials of chemistry in labs? And there are ways to do it. It just takes a little creativity.
Thank you very much, Ron. It's always, yeah, you bring so much energy when we talk. It's great. I want to just go back to Marshall to finish and don't take more of your time. Marshall, just one quick question that came several times and connecting to Ron is what we're project, not everybody in the call, but there's many project managers and we're people who want to get things done. How can we use best our skills in this highly uncertain environment where we need to think about ourselves and be generous? Is there a way you see we could bring some impact or value to the situation? Just to finish, Marshall, with this one. Wait.
Excuse me.
No.
Yeah, a couple. One is macro and the other is micro, and I'm really more of an expert on micro than macro. At the micro level, as I've grown older and older and older, my level of aspiration has actually gone down and down and down. My level of impact has gone up and up and up. I quit focusing on what I cannot change. And really, I think it's so easy to get paralyzed in macro level issues. And when I say macro, beyond Antonio project management, I mean global macro issues. I mean, you have to face reality. Everyone on this call is not going to change global macro issues. If you can, God bless you, go do it. I'm not. So as I've gone older and older and older, my level of aspiration has gone down and down. My level of impact's gone up and up. I just quit focusing on what I can't change. So my one suggestion is focus on what you can change. And as I've grown older, Antonio, my mission in life is very simple. Help you and the people on this call have a little better life.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the whole team, Marshall. It has been a master class on how to think about the reality. You put us on the spot. I love the generosity that you bring, and you see your family is here, 3-4 members trying to cascade and help, and you can see the impact that you've caused. And in small pieces, but we're all trying to do the same. Just help. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow, maybe.
Okay.
Take care, Marshall. So much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the yes, Marshall is blunt and and he's always been blunt. So he just put us on where I think we should be focusing. And I've put a couple of slides together, try to project manage this momentum and this movement. So I wanted to walk you through what I think it's the approach that we can take where we can have some impact, and then we will just discuss outside the call. There's Yolanda who wanted to talk briefly about something she's working. So if there's anybody that wants to talk about something specific, but let me just quickly share what I've built based on your feedback on what we can move forward. Yeah, I put this here. Let me share my screen. So quickly, what I've put together, thanks to Jonathan, to Marcello, to Juanma, to many people have replied to feedback. So I just put these slides that I will share. Marshall, you've seen, like any big mission, we put like a purpose here together. I think it's to help others. So you can read it, but we should have something aspirational. The other thing, the team is growing every day. I think we have new members. Last time I counted a few minutes ago, we were 89, 16 countries. So we're going to build that group and database of so that we can connect and maybe not the whole group, but individual connections will spark some interesting discussions and lead to something concrete. So we're going to fill this in. The approach that we thought is we're connecting virtually. Some of us, we know each other, but some others not. So trying to build that community and build trust and between us. We've mapping a bit the capabilities of the group, and now we're in the step of defining the areas that we can work on. So that's the point 3. I think the next step is to create working groups. I like to contribute, and I suppose all of you want to take a small piece depending on how much time you have to lead one of the areas or the ideas, or just participate so that we start spreading and working on concrete steps. So that will be point 4 and 5. And then continuous improvement. So this is how we start really breaking down the ideas into projects. In terms of communication, let me just go back. We just set up a LinkedIn group. We'll send you the link. You just click and you'll be part of it. So LinkedIn is great for this, knowing who's in the group, the experience. So that's will be for us, but anybody can join. So that will be created. It's already created. We're exploring between Teams from Microsoft and Slack to use it as a community and communication tool. So Slack, I try, and I didn't feel very comfortable to, not very intuitive. Teams seems to be a bit easier. So we might move all the content and the dialogue that happens between the calls to Teams and the different working groups and so on. So if you have any experience or a strong opinion on which tool to use, just send us a note. But it looks like we're going to go for Teams from Microsoft. They're both free, so we can start using and talking throughout and sharing what we think, not just with me, but with everybody. So that will be the steps that we're going through. I think the competencies of this group are so rich. I think besides that, what Marshall was talking, influencing at macro level, which I do think that Rita and Deepa and some people in our group have access to those people, but overall, we do have almost every skill that you need to go through a turnaround, from the people side, from the business side, from the society side. Every phase of the business is in this group and with the experience. So I think it's in our hands to do something. And the ideas that we received, many are reflected here. So what I would propose is that once you receive this, you choose which one you like, or you add something new. There's the networks of networks. So there's everywhere in the world, people are working in similar ideas, working together to put ideas in place and in practice. So can we build an umbrella and connecting peoples and groups on areas and projects? That was one of the ideas. The know-how on education for the elderly people and the kids. Can we accelerate that part? Creative coalition, mixing diverse experts together on a specific innovation. That could be a working group. The coaching, well, we have some of the best coaches in the world. So how can we use them to help others and make, people help through this crisis? The new business model, what would be the new business models in the future? You hear Rita, you hear Marshall. Rita was talking to Alex Osterwald last Friday, amazing talk. So we could think about going a bit deeper on that and connecting with Alex and helping SMEs on revisiting their business models and so on. So tender follow-up, you can see that Gorges sent me, Paula sent me, I think there are governments launching tenders, urgent tenders to come up with ideas. Now it's mostly on the healthcare part, but there will be a big Marshall Plan after this. So how can we set up ourselves to apply for these tenders? How can we build consortiums around the world to support tenders in the implementation of projects and ideas? The cultural communication, we need to think about cultural differences and languages and different understanding of the world, not just the one we have, which tends to be very similar. Then the project management or tools, experience, resilience. So these are just the top ideas that came into table. What we're going to do is just share this and pick one or two that you think, well, I like that, I can help, I can take the lead. I like this, I know how to do it. And then as soon as we have those teams, we start working in parallel in different areas. And once in a while, once per week, we give an update to the team and we exchange. But I think that's the only way I see to start getting on the floor and working the ideas into projects. So this is just a suggestion. The next step is, you see that, the competencies, do we miss anything? Fine-tune the ideas and the working areas, the one I put there. Select your own interest. One comment that was made by Juanma is that we might need to have branches in regions or countries because there's interest in every country. So how can we connect those branches with us? And so that might be the next step in the evolution of the ideas, the localization and connecting with other teams. So as you can see, this is just a first try on putting structure, using project management techniques to bring in the knowledge, the competency, the volunteers to do some concrete steps in specific areas. And I think a sanity check will be what Marshall says, is this something that we can do? Or are we just dreaming too far and we just need to narrow it down to something we can do? So I don't know how much time we won't have left, but please share your thoughts on that approach. And as soon as we can, we'll make this open so that everybody can comment and we'll take it from there. So that's my proposal, to go forward with this team and start taking action and spending time in focus areas. So if that makes sense, you'll get that tomorrow with the minutes and we'll set up the communication to have some dialogue. Before, if there's any comments, there was Yolanda who wanted to share something. Let me go back to Yolanda. She sent me a link. Yolanda, can you speak?
Yes. Thank you, Antonio, and thank you everybody for these 5 minutes.
there had been a discussion about, and going back to the previous meeting that we had on Sunday, about if anybody had ideas or was building IT infrastructure to support COVID-19. And I have in the pipeline an app, a mobile app that we've been working on. And let me just give you a little bit of context really quickly about what it is that this mobile app that we've been working on for the past few weeks. There are two components that you need to address in this outbreak, and I think Marshall already talked about it and was very candid about it. When you have a situation like in New York, mitigation is all you can do. There are so many cases, and we need to take care of the people that are infected. To lower the infection rates, and this is what we've been studying, and these are what the experts are saying, and I went to Stanford to get some of this information as well, is containment. You need to identify the individuals that are infected, and you need to isolate them, and you need to get them out of circulation, but you also need to do contact tracing, which is a very, very important component to mitigating or lowering the curve of this COVID-19. For effective contact tracing, you need real-time geolocated information taken from people who have fallen ill. And so contact tracing needs to go back to 14 days. So in order to, widen the net and ensure that. Contacted people need to take action. They need to reach their provider, get tested, and self-quarantine. These actions need to be supported by the public, and they need to be, we all need to be responsible human beings, and that is what this, so COVID Go, which is the name of this app that we've been working on, will do this by providing total anonymity and privacy to the user. There's no personal identifying information is shared to anybody, and the data is not kept more than it is necessary. And users, you download the app, and it's an app to app, so everybody has to have the app in order for this to work. It identifies by geolocation the proximity of the app, and it creates a node that timestamps. If there is a user that self-identifies, and only through their mobile, that they have been identified as having COVID-19, the algorithm goes back and 14 days and finds all of the other apps in which this, this mobile phone has been in contact with, and sends out a text just saying that there is a possibility that you may have contracted COVID-19 because you have been in the proximity of someone that has contracted that. At this time, we have nothing, and this is just a notification. There are other venues where people are being tracked their symptoms by the CDC. This is not that. This is just a notification app, and it is intended for the warehouse workers, for the grocery workers, especially here in the US, that are still working and that have people coming in to see them. I have my team here also, Juan and Arjun, who are working with me on this. And Juan, do you have any thoughts to just add if you're still on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. My name is Juan. I'm in Woodland Hills, California, and I'm partnered with Yolanda. And basically what we're looking for is for your support to build a critical mass of users that could download this app, and that can help us mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and where it's possible, and also mitigate the expected return of COVID-19 in the fall, as most scientists are expecting here in the United States, are saying that COVID-19 is going to be cyclical, and that we should expect it to return in the fall. So the COVID Go app will help not only to save countless lives, but also to allow for a faster economic recovery. And look forward to all your comments. Thank you.
Very, very impressive. Thank you, Yolanda. And Juan, can you share with us the link to the app and a bit more of the information that you just shared, Yolanda? We'll share it with the team.
Yes, I am. I will send you a charter, Antonio, that I have drafted, and we've been working with our developers who are actually in Latin America, and I will have a link to a prototype that I can send out as soon as possible. And we're looking for anybody in the group that would like to engage with us that has, you know, we're all project managers, and you know, we're putting, but this is a call to action. Your input and your effort to test it and to see, you know, how it can be scaled is really, really critical. So I will put my information in the chat, and anybody that would like to contact us and join our group, we would really appreciate your help. Thank you, Antonio, for the forum. I really appreciate this.
And it will work anywhere in the world, Yolanda?
Yes.
Yeah.
It will work anywhere in the world. Actually right now they're in Quintana Roo, so they're working on a Spanish-English version. But it's a very simple app. There is nothing, all it needs is your mobile phone, because it will be text. And the responsibility here is for self-identification. And nobody will ever know that you were the one that was contracted COVID-19. Because it's anonymous and it lives in the cloud, and the text that is sent out by an entity in the cloud, not by you. And it's a mobile to mobile app. Right now we have nothing. We have no way of knowing if our neighbor, if they have COVID-19 and we came in contact with them, we would never know. And so time is of the essence. And if you're contacted by text saying that you had been in close proximity, there is an opportunity to go and get tested and confirm whether or not you have, and self-quarantine, and by their mitigating any further exposure of others that you may have, even if you don't have symptoms, because we don't know if you don't have symptoms.
We'll share that. I'm sure it's just an app, so it doesn't have any cost for us just to put it on and nope. Share it with friends. So yeah, we can certainly help with that project. But thank you, Yolanda, for sharing that. I want to close the call. I think we could be speaking for a few hours. It's just yeah, it's just passionate to try to do things together and being with so much smart people. So I hope we can get started with the smaller working groups, and that you can dedicate a bit of your time to work on the areas that you can contribute. And I do hope that you enjoy the session. I think the idea would be to do some works in parallel, but then have these calls twice per week, and some of them will be working sessions, but other having people like Rita, Ron, Deepa, Marshall, and some other people that you might know who can inspire us, so that we also learn and become better at the same time. So I'll finish here, and thank you very much. I really appreciate taking you the time, contributing, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Antonio, very much. Appreciate it all. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Antonio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Antonio. Thanks.
Bye-bye.